My name is Kathy Miller. I'm 32 years old, and for the last 5 years I was married to Donald, who's 2 years younger than me. Even now, when I say those words out loud, they feel unreal, like I'm describing someone else's life. But it was mine, every single painful piece of it. Back when we met in college, life was simple. We weren't thinking about careers or bills, just late-night study sessions in the campus library, coffee breath, cheap pizza that tasted like heaven because we were broke, but happy. Donald was the creative one studying graphic design. I was practical business management, organized to a fault, the one with color-coded binders and 3 planners. He used to tease me for it, but it was part of why he said he felt safe with me. After graduation, our paths diverged the way we thought they would. I landed a stable job in project management at a mid-sized firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. I was proud of that stability. Proud I could stand on my own 2 feet. Donald, on the other hand, drifted. Freelance design gigs here and there, bursts of inspiration, followed by dry spells that left him restless and moody. I didn't mind carrying the weight at first. That's what partners do, right? I picked up extra shifts, cut back on my hobbies painting, which I loved but barely touched anymore. I even dipped into my savings to help Donald pay for certification classes when he told me he wanted to become a fitness instructor. "This will change everything for us," he'd said, eyes shining in that way that made me believe. And I did. I encouraged him, drove him to classes, celebrated his milestones like they were my own. When he finally got hired at a local gym, I thought, we're building something real here, something together. But I can see it so clearly now, that was when the cracks began to form. Donald got pulled into the culture of the gym. At first I thought it was good for him, new energy, new community. But soon it wasn't just about health or clients. It was about image. He'd scroll through endless feeds of influencers with sculpted bodies and exotic vacations, and then look at me with this subtle disappointment in his eyes. "Why don't we travel more like these couples?" he'd ask. "We're saving for a house," I'd remind him. "Or maybe you should come with me to the gym. You'd feel more alive." He said it like a casual suggestion, but I felt the sting. I wasn't unfit. I hiked, I walked, I had energy. But I wasn't gym fit. I didn't spend my evenings flexing in front of mirrors or counting macros. Still, I tried. I joined him for a few sessions. The clang of weights, the blaring music, the sea of neon leggings and grunting, it wasn't me. But I smiled through it, trying to be supportive, trying not to notice how Donald's eyes lit up only when someone else complimented his form. That's when her name first slipped into our lives. Jade, his trainer. A tall, tattooed woman in her late 20s, with the kind of smirk you either find magnetic or insufferable. For Donald, it was clearly the former. At first, it was harmless mentions. "Jade says I've got natural potential. Jade recommended this protein shake." I brushed it off. We all talk about coworkers, right? But then, Donald's phone started buzzing late at night, and he'd angle it away from me with a little too much caution. Once, when he left it face up, a message popped up. "Can't wait for our session tomorrow." My gut twisted. But I didn't say anything, not yet. I told myself I trusted him. That's what marriage is built on. And yet, in the pit of my stomach, I already knew something was shifting. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't crash into you all at once. It drips in slowly like a faucet you can't quite shut off. And before you realize it, the room is flooding. At the time, I still thought I could fix it. I had no idea how wrong I was. It started slowly like a leak in the ceiling you don't notice until the whole roof caves in. Donald was no longer the man who once stayed up late, sketching designs on our kitchen table, telling me I was his anchor. Now every conversation circled back to the gym to Jade. At first I laughed it off. He'd say things like, "Jade says my form's perfect," and I'd smile. But inside I felt my chest tighten. Why did it matter so much that she noticed? Why wasn't my encouragement enough? He began comparing us to couples he saw online. Perfectly staged photos of beach vacations, people dripping in designer clothes. Why don't we travel more? Why don't we do something exciting instead of saving every penny? I reminded him gently, "Donald, we're building for the future. A house, a real foundation." But he'd roll his eyes like my dreams were just boring. And then came the secrecy. Late night texts. His phone always face down. New outfits bought with money he swore he didn't have. A new cologne he claimed was on sale. The moment that sealed it, though, the one that sliced through me like glass, happened on a Tuesday evening. I'd just gotten home from work, takeout in my hands, ready for one of our old traditions, a movie night. Donald was already sitting on the couch, his expression unreadable. "Kathy, we need to talk," he said. His voice was too calm, almost rehearsed. But before I could even respond, my phone buzzed with notification after notification. Friends texting. Are you okay? What happened? We saw Donald's post. Confused, I opened my social media. There it was, a selfie of Donald and Jade arms wrapped around each other in the gym mirror. His caption seared into me. Finally stepping into the life I deserve. No more settling for mediocre. Jade gets my vibe, ambitious, exciting, real. Upgrade or get left behind. New chapter. Change better than ever. He tagged her, and the comments flooded in. Yes, King, you deserve better. So happy for you guys. About time you leveled up. I felt the room tilt. The takeout bag slipped from my hands, containers spilling across the carpet. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a public execution of our marriage. I scrolled, hands trembling. Over 200 likes. Jade's comment at the top. Proud to be your upgrade, babe. Let's crush it. When I looked up at Donald, he was watching me with this smug little half smile, like he'd won something I never knew we were competing for. The unfairness of it burned. 5 years of sacrifices, late nights, anniversaries, I'd poured my soul into, flattened into one word, mediocre. Kathy, he said, leaning back like some self-righteous professor about to deliver a lecture. Let's be real. I've outgrown this. You're comfortable, safe, but I want more. Jade pushes me. She has vision. She's ambitious. What do? Sit in an office all day, stream shows at night. That's not living. I wanted to scream, to throw the spilled takeout at him, to demand how he could rewrite our history so cruelly, but instead I sat in silence, my pulse thundering in my ears. So this is it, I finally asked, my voice steadier than I expected. You're leaving me for her. He laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. Leaving, Kathy? I already left months ago. This is just me being honest. Don't act surprised. I gave you hints. I told you to come to the gym to spice things up, but you didn't listen. This, he gestured to his phone, to that disgusting post, is my future. Jade and I, we're building an empire. You're stuck in mediocrity. I stared at him, feeling something shift inside me. Not just pain, something colder, resolve. Without another word, I stood and walked to the bedroom. I pulled my suitcase out from under the bed and began folding clothes with mechanical precision. Donald followed, panic flickering for the first time. What are you doing, packing? My voice was flat. Packing. Kathy, don't be dramatic. No, I said, zipping the suitcase shut. You already moved on. I'll just save you the trouble of watching me cling. His smugness faltered. Where will you even go? I'll figure it out. And I did. That night I drove away. No tears, no begging, just quiet detachment as the city lights blurred through the windshield. In that moment, Donald thought he'd won. But what neither of us knew was that this so-called upgrade was the very thing that would unravel him. The first night after I left Donald, I crashed at a dingy roadside motel, the kind with buzzing neon lights and a bedspread patterned like it hadn't been replaced since the 80s. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the smell of stale smoke clinging to the curtains, wondering how 5 years of my life had been reduced to a single word, mediocre. I replayed everything, our anniversaries, the times I stayed up late, proofreading his resumes, the nights I picked up extra work so he wouldn't have to stress about rent. And for what? To be cast aside in a social media post for likes and hashtags. The pain came in waves, sharp enough to make me curl into myself. But beneath the hurt was something else. Something unexpected. Freedom. I didn't owe him anything anymore. The cycle of carrying, supporting, and waiting for his next big dream, it was over. The next morning, I packed my car with essentials, clothes, laptop, a few books, and drove 3 hours to a smaller town where an old college friend, Rosa, had once said, "If you ever need an escape, my couch is yours." She didn't ask questions when I showed up at her door, duffel bag in hand. She just opened her arms and said, "Stay as long as you need." For the first week, I barely functioned. I walked aimlessly through quiet streets, journaled. Until my hand cramped, cried into Rose's throw pillows when the silence got too loud. And yet each day, I felt lighter. I cut Donald out, completely blocked his number, unfollowed him, deleted every photo. It was like disinfecting a wound, painful but necessary. I also found a therapist online offering discounted virtual sessions. She helped me untangle the knots Donald had tied in my head. How he'd convinced me his unhappiness was my failure. How his contempt had been brewing long before Jade appeared. He didn't upgrade Kathy, she said gently. He downgraded himself. You just stopped being his shield. Meanwhile, through whispers from mutual acquaintances, I heard about Donald's new life. At first, it sounded like everything he'd dreamed of. He and Jade were inseparable, posting photos at rooftop bars, beaches, posing like a power couple. Their smiles wide, their captions obnoxious. I ignored it. I had to. Every time I resisted the urge to look, I felt stronger. Instead, I poured myself into rebuilding. I quit my firm job, cashed in some savings, and started a small consulting business from my laptop. It was risky, but strangely liberating. The same project management skills Donald once dismissed as boring office stuff turned out to be in high demand. Clients came in slowly at first, then steadily. I rented a modest little house with a backyard, painted the walls soft gray, bought secondhand furniture, even planted herbs by the window. I joined a local hiking group and a book club. I rediscovered the parts of myself I'd shelved to support Donald's endless ambitions. For the first time in years, I wasn't living for someone else's dream. I was living for mine. Months passed. Seasons changed. My consulting business grew, and so did my confidence. The silence from Donald was golden, until it wasn't. One evening, about 4 months after I'd walked out, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Kathy. My stomach clenched. That voice. Donald. He sounded nothing like the smug man who'd called me mediocre. His tone was fragile, almost frantic. Thank God you answered. I've been trying to reach you. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you want? A pause. Then words spilled from him in a rush. I know I messed up. That post, it was stupid. Jade. She wasn't who I thought. Things aren't what they looked like. She drained our savings, Kathy. Borrowed money for her so-called brand, and now she's gone. Ghosted me. The gym fired her for scamming clients. I'm drowning. I need help. For a moment, I just sat there staring out at the herbs in my little window box, the scent of rosemary drifting in the evening air. Donald's voice, once a storm in my head, now felt distant, powerless. That's rough, I said neutrally. No sympathy, no pity, just detachment. But what does that have to do with me? Silence stretched. Then his desperate sigh. Kathy. Please. We were married. Doesn't that mean something? You were the stable one, the good one. Let's fix this. I almost laughed at the irony. The man who called me mediocre now begged for my stability, but all I felt was clarity. No, Donald, I said softly but firmly. We're done. And I hung up. That was the first sign of his collapse, and deep down I knew it was only the beginning. After that first desperate call, Donald faded back into silence. I thought maybe he'd finally given up, accepted the clean break. But karma, I've learned, doesn't strike like lightning. It unravels quietly, thread by thread, until the whole fabric collapses. The updates reached me in fragments, mutual friends' whispers, even a few screenshots sent by people who had cheered Donald on during his so-called upgrade. At first, it was little things. Jade stopped appearing in his posts. The captions that once screamed power couple and new chapters shifted into vague motivational quotes. Donald began posting shirtless selfies alone, desperate smiles that didn't reach his eyes. Then came the bigger cracks. Jade's fitness app project, what Donald had bragged, was their empire turned out to be a scam. She'd borrowed money not just from him, but from clients at the gym, promising massive returns. When the truth came out, she vanished, deleting accounts, leaving Donald to face the backlash. The gym dropped him too. Apparently, he'd been caught promoting Jade's fake business to clients, and when they demanded refunds, he couldn't deliver. His reputation, once tied to that smug grin and ambition, sank fast. Meanwhile, my life was nothing flashy, but it was steady. My consulting business picked up momentum. One satisfied client led to another. I even landed a big contract with a company overseas enough to finally buy decent furniture and turn my little house into a true home. I joined weekend hikes, sat around bonfires with new friends, read books I'd always meant to finish. My therapist encouraged me to celebrate small victories each day without checking Donald's page, each project completed, each step toward reclaiming myself. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. But peace has a way of being interrupted. One evening, while I was trimming basil from my window planter, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I knew before answering who it would be. Kathy Donald's voice cracked raw this time. Please, just listen. Everything's falling apart. Jade scammed me. Scammed everyone. She drained my accounts, ruined my name. I'm broke. People are cutting me off. Even my own family's distancing themselves. I don't know where else to turn. I stayed silent, listening to the tremor in his voice. Part of me felt the old reflex, the urge to soothe, to fix. But then I remembered the night I left the smug smile as he told me I was mediocre, while Jade draped herself across his arm. You made your choice, Donald, I said finally. Calm, detached. Now you're living with it. Kathy, please. His words tumbled over themselves. I was wrong. I see it now. You were the one who kept me grounded. You, he choked. You were everything. Were. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. Once they would have broken me. Now they just felt empty. That's rough, I repeated, echoing the same tone as last time, and I hung up again. But Donald wasn't done. Karma had him by the throat, and desperation made him relentless. Over the next few weeks, the attempts escalated. A text from a new number. Kathy, I'm sorry. Please coffee, no drama. An email to my work address somehow dug up. I lost everything. Living off friends. Please just talk to me. I know I was cruel, but I've changed. Then came the guilt trips through others. Kara, one of his loudest cheerleaders when he left me, called out of nowhere. Kathy, he's a mess right now. You need to man up and forgive him. He learned his lesson. Don't be petty. I almost laughed at the hypocrisy. Kara, this isn't your business. Tell him to stop. Click. A week later, a voicemail from Donald's brother Kathy. He's crashing at my place, crying every night. Jade took thousands. He's sorry, I swear. You were good for him. Please think about it. But I didn't think about it. Not for a second. Because I finally understood Donald wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry for what he lost. And there's a difference. Karma had arrived, dressed as Jade's betrayal, financial ruin, and public humiliation. And me, I didn't need revenge. Watching the universe hand him the bill was more than enough. When a person like Donald feels the walls closing in, they don't accept defeat gracefully. They claw, scratch, and manipulate, desperate to regain control. At first, his attempts at contact were drenched in regret. Text after text from numbers I didn't recognize. Kathy, please, I was blind. You were everything. Let me fix it. When I blocked one, another popped up. Then came the emails. Pages of rambling half-apologies, twisted justifications buried under desperation. I know I hurt you, but Jade tricked me too. We both got played. Don't throw away what we had because of one mistake. One mistake. He framed the months of betrayal, the public humiliation, the smug way he dismissed me as one mistake. And when I stayed silent, his tone shifted. His sister called next. We'd never been close, but she tried the guilt card. Kathy, he's hit rock bottom. Don't you remember your vows? In sickness and health, he needs you now more than ever. I almost choked on the irony. None of them had remembered my vows when Donald was parading Jade online, calling me mediocre. Where were they then, cheering him on? I told her calmly. My vows ended the day he broke them. Don't call again. Click. A week later, Donald's brother left me another voicemail. This one wasn't guilt. It was pleading. Kathy, he's not eating. He lost his job, his apartment. He's crashing with me, but it's bad. You don't have to take him back, but at least talk to him. Give him closure. Closure. That word made me laugh bitterly. Donald had slammed the door on closure the day he chose to post our ending online for strangers' applause. When guilt didn't work, Donald's desperation morphed into manipulation. Another call, another new number. His voice was hoarse, broken. Kathy, I'm on my knees here. I'll delete the post. I'll go public apologize to you in front of everyone. Just let me come back. I need your stability. I need you. There it was, the truth tucked between his begging. He didn't want me. He wanted my stability. The same stability he'd spat on, mocked as mediocrity. I finally answered one of his calls more out of curiosity than compassion. Donald, I said flatly, stability is what you sneered at. Remember, a silence. Then his voice cracked. I was an idiot. Jade was all flash. No substance. She took everything, our money, my dignity. And now, everyone knows. I can't show my face at the gym. Even friends stopped picking up. I'm humiliated. Alone. His words spilled like vomit. I'll do anything. I'll start over. I'll delete every photo of her. I'll apologize. Just please. Let me in. I need you. I listened, my chest tight, not with longing, but with realization. Once I would have melted at his brokenness, tried to patch him back together. But now I could see it clearly. This wasn't remorse. It was desperation for comfort. No, Donald, I said firmly. You don't miss me. You miss what I gave you. That's not the same. His tone snapped, like a rubber band stretched too far. What you think you're better than me now, sitting alone in your boring little life, pretending you're happy. Don't flatter yourself, Kathy. I was the best thing that ever happened to you. Without me, you're nothing. There it was, his true colors bleeding through the cracks of his rehearsed apologies. I hung up without another word, blocked the number, and made a note for my lawyer. That night, as I sat in my little backyard, string lights glowing softly above me, I realized something important. Donald hadn't changed. The same arrogance, the same entitlement, it was still there, just buried under his desperation. The begging wasn't about love, it was about survival, and I refused to be his lifeboat again. By the time autumn rolled in, Donald had become a ghost, drifting between borrowed couches and burned bridges. I didn't have to search for updates, they found me, whispered through mutual friends, even hinted at in the awkward messages of people who once celebrated his upgrade. Apparently, Jade had vanished completely. She didn't just ghost Donald. She ran, leaving behind furious clients, unpaid debts, and enough bad blood to poison his reputation for good. Donald, stripped of his glittering facade, was now nothing more than a cautionary tale. And then came the knock at my door. It was a Saturday afternoon. I'd just finished a client call, the scent of rosemary chicken wafting from the oven, music playing softly through the house. My life quiet, grounded, steady, felt whole again. The knock was sharp, urgent. My stomach sank before I even opened it. There he was, Donald. But not the Donald I remembered, the one with styled hair and designer sneakers dripping with smug confidence. This Donald looked wrecked. His hair unkempt, eyes, hollow clothes, wrinkled and smelling faintly of sweat and cheap cologne. At his feet sat a battered duffel bag. Kathy, he whispered, his voice hoarse, please. Behind him, leaning against a beat-up car, was Kara, his loudest cheerleader, during his better-than-ever days. She crossed her arms, watching with thinly veiled impatience, like she was a reluctant chauffeur forced into this humiliation. Donald's eyes darted past me into the house. The fresh paint, the neat garden, the faint strains of music, all proof that I hadn't just survived. I had thrived. You've built something, he said, his voice breaking. You look good. The house, it's beautiful. You did this without me. I stepped onto the porch, closing the door halfway behind me. A barrier, a boundary. What do you want, Donald? I asked, my tone even. He swallowed hard, shoulders sagging. I've hit rock bottom. Jade's gone for good. The cops are looking into her scams, and I lost everything. My job, my friends, my apartment. I got evicted yesterday. I have nowhere left to go. His words hung heavy, but I felt nothing. No pity, no flicker of the old instinct to fix him, just clarity. Let me in, he pleaded. Eyes wide, shimmering with unshed tears. We can rebuild. I'll make it right this time. I'll delete every post, apologize publicly, whatever you want. Just please don't leave me out here. From the car, Kara called out, annoyed, yeah, Kathy, don't be heartless. He's family. Donald shot her a glare. Stay out of this. Then back to me, voice cracking, almost a whisper now. Kathy, I was wrong. So wrong. You weren't mediocre. You were everything. And I threw it away for a lie. His desperation clung to the air, heavy and suffocating. I let the silence stretch before answering. Finally, I shook my head, a small, almost disbelieving laugh escaping me. Wow, I said quietly. From telling me you were too good for my mediocre life, to standing here begging to be let back in. That's a plot twist even I didn't see coming. His face crumpled, shame flickering into anger. You're mocking me. No, I replied calmly. I'm observing. You wanted excitement, Donald. Looks like you got it. But me, I've built something real here. Peace, stability, a life I'm proud of, without you. His jaw tightened, his eyes bloodshot and desperate narrowed. You'll regret this, he spat. I was the spark in your life. Without me, you're nothing but... Free, I cut him off. My voice was steady, final. And with that, I turned, stepped back inside, and closed the door. The click of the lock echoed like a punctuation mark. Through the window, I saw him stand frozen on the porch duffel bag, slumped at his feet. Kara muttered something, grabbed his arm, and pulled him toward the car. He resisted at first, then stumbled along like a man finally realizing the empire he'd built on sand had truly collapsed. I didn't watch them drive away. I didn't need to. For the first time, the chapter was closed, not because Donald walked out, but because I finally did. After Donald left my porch that day, dragging his duffel bag back to Kara's beat-up car, I stood in the quiet of my living room for a long time. The music still played softly, the rosemary chicken still filled the house with warmth, and yet the silence felt louder than ever. But it wasn't emptiness, it was freedom. For years, I'd carried the weight of his ambition, sacrificed my time, my savings, my peace, to prop up a man who saw me as nothing more than background support. I was the safe option, the comfortable one, the mediocre life. And still he came crawling back when the shine wore off his fantasy. That night, I ate my dinner alone at the small oak table I'd refinished myself. The food tasted better than it had in months, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was mine. Cooked in my kitchen in my home, built on my terms. I thought about what my therapist once told me. Closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you choosing to move forward without their permission. She was right. Donald didn't give me closure. He tried to take it from me over and over again, but I gave it to myself the moment I closed that door in his face. In the weeks that followed, his name faded further into the background. The calls stopped. The messages died down. Even the whispers from mutual friends disappeared. I didn't ask why. I didn't care. For all I knew, he was still out there chasing the next upgrade, still trying to fill the hole Jade had left behind. But I no longer carried his choices as my burden. Instead, I poured myself into life. My business grew enough to let me plan my first real vacation solo somewhere quiet and coastal with nothing but books and waves. I expanded my little backyard garden, strung more lights across the fence, and invited my hiking friends over for dinners that turned into laughter-filled nights under the stars. For the first time in years, I wasn't a shadow to someone else's glow. I was my own light. And yes, sometimes I wondered about love. Not with Donald, never again, but with someone who would see me as I am, not as a stepping stone. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't desperate. But for the first time, I was open. Because now I understood something Donald never did. A stable, steady life isn't mediocre. It's extraordinary when it's built on respect, trust, and peace. If you're listening to this, if you've ever been discarded, belittled, or called not enough, remember this: you don't have to beg for someone to see your worth. Walk away with dignity. Build your own life brick by brick. The right people will never call that mediocre. As for me, my story isn't over. It's just beginning. And Donald, he became exactly what he once accused me of being: forgettable.